Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another Q-Tip session. My name is David Strausser. I am sales here at Quaint Business Solution. Quaint is an SAP Business One provider who values excellence in customer service as well as knowledge in the SAP Business One application. Part of what we do at Quaint is ensure we are showcasing the great features within the SAP B1 application and helping to empower our clients and others to use the system to its fullest capabilities. Today, we are featuring a super-powered AI advanced B1 accounting tool. Yeah, so guess what? We're going to make your accounting lives easier with our friends at Trailed, featuring Mr. Ryan Donahue. Thank you for walking us through all of your functionality and features, Ryan. Whenever you're ready, I'll let you take it from here. But real quick, I do want to mention this and call this out, okay? Ryan, he is real, okay? He is not an AI bot. He is not some hallucination, okay? So please, if you do up there, you'll see a Q&A bar on the top of your team screen on the webinar. Throw in your questions. At the end of this session, we'll answer all the questions in the Q&A and tackle as many as we can. If we can't, we'll get back to you via email. So with that, I'll stop all my talking and rambling. I'm going to turn it over to you now, Ryan. Over to you, man.
Awesome. Thanks, David. And to the Quaint team, appreciate you sponsoring and hosting this webinar, and looking forward to presenting the Trailed platform. I'm going to just walk through a few PowerPoint slides here, just to give you a little background on Trailed, and then I'll jump into a live presentation of the platform. I do like to talk about our founding story because I think it's interesting, and it's really kind of core to who Trailed is as a company. Trailed was established in 2017 out of Australia, and two of our founding members were actually part of their own family businesses, and they were both in operations and processing payments to their vendors. And they were both defrauded. One was defrauded by an internal player, and another was defrauded by a business email compromise where someone had come in, changed a PDF invoice, sent it into the organization, and they actually wired out a large sum of money to a fraudulent player and never got much of that money back. So the thought was that they went out to find solutions that could help them drive efficiencies, but also provide security within the accounts payable process. And they weren't able to find things that met both criteria. And since then, Trailed was built around those two core pillars around efficiencies and security in the financial for the financial team. And one of the light bulbs, they were got a text message about their credit card being compromised, and they were trying to make a $10 purchase at the gas station, and why couldn't they have this AI running in the background for them on these business-to-business transactions that were incorporating hundreds of thousands of dollars. So Trailed is really a premium solution built for SAP Business One. We seamlessly integrate through the service layer, and again, our core pillars are really around saving time and money, so upwards of 80 to 90% efficiency gains within the accounts payable process. And again, that core pillar around security is really built around an always-on artificial intelligence algorithm for fraud and risk detection. Our solution can be configured and implemented quickly. Sometimes we see it under 30 days to go live. So again, a solution that works out of the box and can be implemented very quickly. And we also talk about a lot of the complexities we can handle within the accounts payable process as well. So certainly some nuances within the ability to match 2- or 3-way from an invoice to a goods receipt to a purchase order, being able to handle landed costs or subcontracts or project utility bills or drop ships, things like that might be unique to someone's business. We can handle all of that within the Trailed platform, driving efficiencies within all those areas. Here's just a quick slide on some of the ROI that our customers typically realize when the solution is implemented. And we can share these slides and ROI tools with you after the call as well. But also when we talk about fraud prevention, we'll just talk about a few of the metrics here as well. Typically most organizations have seen some sort of fraud into the organization, whether it's via email or something happening that's that they have become aware of or maybe not aware of that has either happened to the business or they're understand that could happen to the business. And then here's the actual problem that we're solving, or the market of actually fraud. So it's a $12.5 billion industry today, and people that are defrauded are typically defrauded well over $100,000 as part of that process. So here's just a couple slides on how Trailed manages some of the fraud within the accounts payable process. First off, we have a verified by Trailed process. When I get into our presentation, I will touch on that key aspect of our platform, but we're really fingerprinting each vendor that our customers are working with. So we're doing 150 plus data checks on vendors across government databases, third-party databases, banking details, supplier details. And we're giving that vendor a fingerprint across the entire economy. So anything you want to know about the vendors that you are working with, we're able to kind of flag any of that up within that vendor fingerprinting. And then on top of that, when you come to each individual AP transaction, we have that always-on risk algorithm running in the background, monitoring those transactions for any anomalies. So again, things like, is the email address that invoice came from correct? Has the PDF been modified? Is the data that we've extracted off of that invoice match what's in our vendor master file and is validated from terms, phone numbers, banking details, et cetera, even to the point where is that dollar value of that invoice in line with how we typically interact with that vendor over a 12-month bell curve. So these are some of the things I will touch on within the presentation, and I'll pause my screen and we'll jump into a live demo. So we're looking at the Trailed in tray here. So this is top of the funnel for everything accounts payable. So we have all of our invoices that have landed here. Again, typically we're monitoring accounts payable email inbox, and those attachments are landing here. We can also drag and drop or search out for invoices from a folder. I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop a few invoices into the platform today. I'll drag 3 examples in from a folder that I have. Again, I can drag and drop thousands of invoices in, a couple invoices in, one invoice in. It usually takes several seconds per invoice for those to process in the background. As I mentioned, a majority of our customers we would actually be monitoring an AP inbox where those would land, and we would pull those in and they would land here in this in tray. While those invoices are processing, I just want to touch on this supplier tab here. This is where those suppliers are going through that background check. This is a verified by Trailed process. So we're pulling in all of the vendors out of the vendor master file from Business One. They will land here and they will go through that background check. So you can see here, some of these have the green check mark, which means they've been verified by Trailed. They've gone through that background check. Again, here some are unverified. And then we also have these warning signs here where there's something that's an anomaly that's gone on with a specific vendor, whether it's new banking details, they've gone bankrupt, there's been risk or fraud within that organization, and something you'd probably want to know about before actually executing a payment to that specific vendor. We also have unverified vendors here. If I have a new vendor, and I can actually go in and self-verify that vendor as well. So that would be me just coming in and putting my initials next to that vendor while it continues to go through that background check if I wanted to process an invoice and payment to that vendor. So I'm basically stamping my initials on that vendor that they're good to go for the time being. And that vendor background check goes on periodically. So it's not just done once, it goes on periodically for those vendors as a background check. So I will go back to my invoice tab here. We also have an analytics queue here, so I can click on my analytics, and this is going to highlight a real dashboard for invoice analytics, for anything from coding, any bottlenecks that are going on within the organization, my invoicing, time to upload, time to process things for specific vendors, time for approvals. So this is a real kind of analytics dashboard for all of our invoicing that can be sliced and diced by date and time. We're also adding an AI agent into this as well, so you can now want to know about the data within the AP process. So that's our analytics dashboard. I'll also touch on a reporting dashboard here in a little bit as well. So I'm going to play the role of an accounts payable clerk, the first leg of these invoices coming in. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and click on my draft queue. So we can see two of the invoices that I had initially dragged and dropped into the system. That third invoice I had dragged and dropped and actually went through a zero-touch invoicing processing or a straight-through process. So I'll highlight that one here in a second. But you can see here, I've got my purchase order invoice, which is highlighted here that I have receipts associated to it as well. I will start there and I'll click on this invoice and pop open the screen. So on the left, you can see I have an image of the invoice. I have our field mapping section, which is really our header information. I have all of our supplier details here. I've got all pricing details here on the right. In the middle of the screen, you can see I have our goods and receipted section. Down on the left here, we have an internal communication and audit tool, which keeps a full, again, audit log of these transactions and all the communication between people that are involved in processing those transactions. And on the right here, I have additional coding, approval, and submitting of that invoice. But if I start at the top here and move my way left to right, I'll click on the invoice number, and you can see on the image of the invoice on the left that it's highlighting that in a red box. Trailed uses OCR, OCR is a bit of a commodity these days, but within the OCR, we built a machine learning classification layer on top of the OCR, which is really powerful. So it's highlighting where that information has been captured from. And if by chance it didn't capture it correctly, the end user can actually come in here and choose a different area for this information and train the system with that machine learning to capture that information correctly next time it does process that specific invoice. But again, you can see it's captured that information correctly. We've found our company and our supplier. We've also found our purchase order number. Same thing here. If it was better captured somewhere else, we could actually train the platform on where that information resides and capture that correctly. We have an invoice date and then due date based on the terms from the invoice. Again, we've captured all of our supplier details and banking information here. We have our total of the invoice. Same thing here. If this was better captured at the top of the invoice, we could actually click on that and capture it there. And that machine learning really, out of the box, our data extraction is upwards of 80 to 90% on the first pass of an invoice. And then utilizing that machine learning classification layer, we can be upwards of 99 to 100% on the second pass of an invoice. So it's really powerful. And really speaks to the fact that you can get hyper automation with just processing an invoice one time, capturing that data, training the system on where that information resides, and then capture that information extremely accurate on that next pass. There's no need for templating or definitions within this process. This is all done with just using that machine learning piece within the platform. I think it's important to note here as well that as this transaction has been processed, it's being monitored by that AI algorithm. So the minute this invoice was dragged and dropped in, or we pulled it in from the attachment off of an email, it's been going through that algorithm. So monitoring where the invoice has come from, the email address, has the PDF been modified or tampered with at all? Has the data we extracted, again, match everything that's within our vendor master file? And then is it in line with how we typically interact with this specific vendor? So terms, phone number, the dollar value on the invoice, are all those in line with how we typically interact with that vendor? And if there was anything out of the norm here, we would actually get a warning sign right in the middle of the screen here, letting us know that something would need to be looked at or escalated before we process that invoice. Since I have no warning signs, I can see here in the middle of my screen, it's letting me know that I have receipted items that I can add to this transaction. I'm just going to go ahead and click on this add receipt line items here. And then from here, we're actually pulling this in directly from the purchase order within SAP Business One and displaying all that information here. So if I scroll over my icon here, you can see all the PO and receipted item information's here. We've defaulted all the general ledger account coding based on what's on the purchase order information, and all that is defaulted and displayed here within our interface. From here, we can even monitor variances as well. So if by chance this was actually either captured wrong or invoiced wrong, we can actually go ahead and view our variances here. And we're actually going to pull up an area where we're actually highlighting the variances within this invoice. Again, this can be either above or below as well. So if there's a discrepancy on the amount that's either charged more or less than we've actually received, we can actually see that all here in this variance interface here. I'll go ahead and put these back to normal. And again, even if you hover over some of these, it will show some of those variances within the actual interface here as well. So a great, easy way to see variances within this screen directly from within the interface. We do see we have a variance here that's letting us know we have a $9.99 variance. It's highlighted in red. I can see here that's actually a freight variance. I'm just going to go ahead and click my freight line. And then from here, I can actually code this to a freight account and code that appropriately. You can see here now my variance is gone and has turned to green. So again, a very visual indicator letting me know that this is now good to go. And you can also see here we have some of these stars here that are located within our interface as well. All of these are learning as well. So if this is actually allocated to a different tax or company or GL account or sub account, it's learning from each time I actually select these different coding options as well. So next time it sees a specific invoice, it will default that directly to that freight expense based on that input that I've given it on coding that line. So now that my variance is gone, I can go down here and actually, just for the sake of the webinar, I'm actually going to just make myself the approver, but we can automate all these approvals within the platform so we can have, a multi-level approval workflow built within the solution, based on your rules and requirements for that specific. Again, with the internal communication here, I can actually tag someone within that process. I can hit send, put some internal communication to my team on this invoice that this needs to be approved ASAP. I can even mark this as urgent if I wanted to, or mark it as on hold or a drop ship, and then just submit this into its next level of approval. I will now come into my next invoice here, which is actually a non-PO invoice. Same thing, I can highlight the information on where it's been captured. Again, everything's been captured correctly. If I needed to move any of that around, I could. Same thing with our total dollar value amount here. But I'm actually going to go ahead and add all these line items from the invoice. So I'm going to click on this add from invoice. It's going to go ahead and capture all of the details and line items directly off of that invoice. You can see I have no variance on this invoice. I can even split this invoice out at the header level if I wanted to, or even at a line item level here. So if I actually wanted to split this server storage out across either multiple general ledger accounts or companies or branches, I could do all of that here as well. Again, I will code some of these based on my knowledge of the invoice. And again, it's learning from that input and will default those codes next time it sees that specific invoice from Amazon. And again, is learning from that end user input on that coding of that invoice. Again, for the sake of the webinar, I'm just going to make myself the approver. I won't put any comments in at this time, but again, I could comment back and forth to approvers. I could escalate this to an ad hoc approval and then just submit this into its next level of approval. Now, as the AP clerk, I have no more invoices in my draft queue, and now I'll play the role of an approver, and I can click on my Waiting on Me tab. So now as an approver, I can come in and see the invoices that are waiting on me for approval. I'm actually going to click on this one here, which is an invoice that's been in my queue and is letting me know this is a high-risk invoice and letting me know the payment details were not detected for this specific vendor. Maybe the details have changed, they weren't detected. We don't have them, but certainly this is something that we would want to escalate internally to kind of figure out what's going on here. And again, you can see I've can communicate with my team and let them know I need to see this invoice before we process this payment, and I can escalate this internally. I can put this on hold, I could reject it, I could edit it, I could again just put it back as a draft. But right now I'll just close this invoice down and go back to my other invoices that are waiting on me for an approval. I can click on these. Again, you can see this is a low risk invoice, but the approver here has all the information they need to determine the facts about this invoice. So again, I can see my 12-month bell curve of this invoice and the dollar value. I can review the invoice information, supplier details, all the pricing information. I could go in here and Again, if I actually wanted to be an approver that had coding rights, I could actually go in here and code this invoice as well. I could, again, comment on the invoice. This can also all be done directly from a mobile device as well. So again, if you have folks that are on the road that are using mobile devices or tablets, they could do all this approval directly from within a mobile device as a responsive design interface, web interface. So I'll go ahead just and approve this invoice and then move on to the next one here. Pop this open. Again, you can see this is letting me know that that freight line was added to the invoice. It's just as a reminder that something was added to this invoice. It's still a low risk invoice, but all the details are here for this invoice, all the activities, the audit log of it, that I can go ahead and make a determination on approving this invoice. So once all my invoices are now approved, I can go over to my approved queue here, and then I'll just highlight this auto approved invoice. This is one of the third invoice I'd actually dragged and dropped into the system. So this invoice has actually gone through a zero-touch invoicing process where it's gone through and met our three-way matching rule. So it's come in, we've extracted all the data, all the coding has been defaulted. It's, again, gone through that three-way match, everything matched up appropriately. And this invoice could have ended up directly in Business One without anyone having to touch it. This three-way matching rule is actually set up at the vendor level and can be set up per vendor on how these flow. But again, it's nice to know that some of these can come in and drop directly into B1 if they meet all of your business rules and requirements. So if I go back to my approved invoices here, and again, these could all be auto exported in once they're approved. We could also click on these, export all three if I wanted to do them manually, but these could be set up to auto export into Business One without anyone having to touch them once they've gone through their validation and approval process. So that was really handling, several different types of AP transactions from start to finish, all the way from invoice in to those invoices landing in Business One. Just to highlight a few other additional features here as well, I'm going to touch on my statement reconciliation queue here. Again, I dragged and dropped this statement into our platform. We could have monitored, again, from an AP inbox. Those could have landed here as well. But I'm going to click on my statement, and we can give this a reference number. And you can see here, I've captured the data off of the statement, and I want to go out and just find the matches for this. So this is going to go out, find all the matches that have been either processed through Trailed or that are in Business One, and make sure that there's no variances from what the vendor is telling us is on the statement versus what we have processed internally. And if there was anything here that was not received, or the dollar value or the terms were off, we could actually highlight that as a warning sign here within the platform saying, hey, this doesn't match something. There's a variance here that needs to be figured out prior to processing this. But everything here looks good. I can just mark this as reconciled, and now that statement's been reconciled. And we see a lot of value here with our customers that do statements and reconcile statements, that this is a huge time saver for how they process statements. So again, only seeing things that are variances within that statement process and making it very apparent where those variances are on the statement. I'll progress here onto our payments tab, and I'll click on payments. I'll pull this open. So this is actually what I refer to as our executive payment review. This is where you've gone into Business One, you have batched your payments together, and we're now pulling those batched payments back into Trail to put them through another level of approval, and obviously of security and compliance review. So again, some of these I can see have a green check mark. I can click on these. These all look good. They're all green check marks. There's no risk detail to any of these. These all look good. I could go ahead and actually submit that payment for payment. But some of these do have warnings that apply to them. So I want to click on some of these and see what's going on here. And again, you can see here we've got new vendors that we had not paid before. We do have variances within these payment batches that we certainly want to figure out what's going on. It looks like we maybe either have a duplicate invoice that was maybe done by accident, or maybe there was a duplicate invoice submitted on purpose, but we would certainly want to figure out and maybe communicate with my team with my communication tool here on what's going on with this. So was it duplicate on purpose? And we want to kind of back that out, or was there something else going on there? Again, another duplicate invoice in this payment batch, so we want to figure out what's happening to it. And we can also go all the way up here to an invoice that's in this batch that looks like it was potentially entered directly into Business One without going through our standard approval processes. So this is a large dollar value invoice that someone potentially entered directly into Business One, was not approved, and we potentially want to go, I need to see this invoice ASAP, understand why it was entered in, wasn't approved prior to actually paying this specific vendor invoice. So all these details are at your fingertips, all this visibility is here. Again, giving another security level before those batch payments are actually paid. And then from here, I could approve, delete, reject these batches individually or all at once. And once those batches are approved, I'll go to my approved payment batches here. This is called a trailed pay here, where we can actually execute payments on behalf to the vendors on behalf of our customers. This is actually a feature right now that we are, it's not integrated to B1 today, but we are rolling out integration for Business One to this soon. And just want to touch on this quickly as this is kind of the final step of this process where you're able to get the batches approved, but also execute payments on behalf to those vendors. So again, just the ability to have these payments within the system here. Again, we have all the payment details. We have a preferred payment method for each of our vendors. And we can hit pay on this. And then, with the two-factor authentication on behalf of the customer. So again, we can do ACH, EFT, wires, FX transactions for international payments, checks, virtual credit cards, right from within the platform. So again, obviously the goal here with all these tools is to give you greater visibility and efficiencies around the entire invoice to payment process. Just quickly touching on reporting here. Again, really robust platform where we can touch on really, again, all the details we want to look at and report on. And again, all this can be reported on directly here, downloaded into a CSV or an Excel file as needed, but really, again, giving us a lot of visibility into, status, suppliers, distribution, payment details within the reporting dashboard. And then we also have a document management tool here as well. So on some of those screens earlier, you might have seen there was a document attachment or document management queue. We can actually attach supporting documents to all the invoices coming in. And all of this can actually land here as well. So we can have all of our supporting documents and invoices stored here within Trailed's document section as a document management tool as well. And then just to finish up, I know we've got about 30 minutes here. If I continue to move left to right here, again, this is our notification queue. So anywhere where someone's commented something to me or I've gotten approval that's in my queue or anything that's here for me to take action on, I would get a notification here, as well as within my email inbox, letting me know that there's something to take action on, whether it's an approval or an invoice that's in my queue that needs attention. We have our frequently asked questions and help and support interface here as well, where someone can come in and watch, submit a ticket, as well as see training documentation and things along those lines. And if I touch on my settings tab here, again, all this can be administered by an end user organization, very easy to administer the solution and set up and configure. So we have all of our automation ability to configure this based on, your specific business. We can create all of our field mappings, whether at the supplier level or global, so how all of our information is supplied and mapped. We can even set up our own flags in the platform as well. So again, I've set up a drop ship, an urgent on hold, but you could set up endless flags within the platform, give them color codes, and again, really based on what your business is, to again highlight specific invoices on what you want to have highlighted within that transaction. And then again, a really robust reporting tool here as well. Really easy to set up and administer. I can create an approval rule based on a really endless conditions. So it could be invoice total, PO owner, and then even incorporating these risk conditions within this as well. So if I wanted to do specific risk conditions within the approvals, I could actually incorporate these in here as well. So if anything was a new supplier, needed to be approved by somebody, Payment details have changed. Any of this could actually be incorporated within these approvals. And then again, we could have group approvals, tiered approvals, and we could, based on, someone's specific user role, how much they can approve within an approval queue. This can all be set up again directly within the platform. And again, you can see how these look. This was that auto approve rule. That was that three-way matching rule that I had highlighted earlier. That was set up. So again, these are really easy to set up, really robust for any reporting. It needs to be assigned a delegation. We have a find and replace, and then we have our variances as well. So setting up all of our variances and how those form. And then all of our users and admins can be set up here based on, again, someone's rights and responsibilities within the organization. They might be a power user, they might just be an approver user. So again, being able to set up what they can see and can't see within the system is all administered right here and is set up within the platform as well. And then we have all of our release notes here. And then, each individual profile you can set up for each individual within the platform. So that's really trailed at a high level from start to finish. I'm hoping that was helpful and informative. I guess I'll ask Dave if there are any questions we might.
Well, first off, great job, fabulous job. Thank you so much for presenting that. And for the most part, your hotel internet actually did hold up during the demonstration. So good job. Got a couple quick questions for you. I know that we're pushing on time, so we'll try to make these short and sweet if we can, please. How can this one I actually find really interesting myself? How can Trail handle handwriting? Like, I guess, for example, like maybe like that Office Max invoice you sent, like let's just say someone crossed off a quantity of 10 and maybe made 9 manually, and that's what was accepted like that,
So our data extraction is really powerful, and I've seen it extract handwriting off of expense receipts. So someone that's actually, signing their name and putting a tip on that, being able to handle, expense receipts or even handwriting off invoices. Yeah. So it's actually really powerful. I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure on all the details there. I've been selling extraction tools for over 15 years. And I've not seen anything actually handle handwriting like the Trail tool does. So it's really accurate on actually capturing handwriting and print and even stuff that is really messy. And again, if there's interest in kind of seeing a tailored demonstration on some of that, we're happy to show that. But I guess with that said, we can also, you can see here on the tool here, so we can do upload expenses as well. So we actually do expense receipts within the platform too.
Okay. And then I guess the other question we'd like to get to, which probably most people on the call that are still here would want to know, is how is Trailed priced?
Yes, so Trailed is priced by transactions. So we would inquire on how many AP invoices are transacted in a month or a year, and we give you an annual subscription for that. And certainly Quaint can assist in providing some budgetary pricing, but there are unlimited users involved on the platform, so you can have unlimited users on top of Trailed set up within the platform, and then it's really just based on that monthly invoice count, and we would give you kind of basically put within a tier and then give you a kind of an annual subscription based on that.
Perfect. And then the final question I have for you is, I guess, let's see, how, can Trail handle multiple invoices on a PDF?
Yes, absolutely. So, and again, I typically highlight some of these examples, but we have the ability to actually split invoices in. So if somebody gets a vendor that sends in an invoice that potentially has 10 pages, but there are 10 separate invoices in there, they would actually see a area where they could actually go ahead and separate those out into the 10 separate invoices within the platform. They would do that and then parse those out into individual AP transactions. And of course, with that OCR, it's information are, and then making a recommendation on where to split those invoices out.
Okay, perfect. Well, that looks to be all the questions I have here in our Q&A. So thank you. everyone, especially Ryan and Trail. Thank you so much for coming on, showing your awesome solution, and I think making accounting fun. We appreciate you all being here, especially you, Ryan and Trail. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn and check out our email announcements for our next product feature and other great things that are going on at Quaint. Also, make sure to pop over to our website at www.quaintbusiness.com and locate some of our amazing takeaway documents like the In Case You Miss It and things like that, other goodies, and our resources page. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you again this time next month. Cheers.